Waiting for the Lord to do something wonderful in our lives, waiting for some promise made many years ago, yet has been so long unfulfilled, all of these can cause us to feel or think, why should I wait any longer? What is the point? I'm tired, I'm weary of this. I feel like, Lord, you just don't care. I feel it would be better just to have someone, even not the best, to at least have some company in my life to share with. Waiting is very hard at times, and even more so when you've been waiting a very long time for something special to happen, what the Lord has promised you. For me, it was waiting 26 years for his promise of a dear wife, and at times it was very painful. I often felt forgotten by God, as if he was treating me unfair. But in my heart, by faith, I knew that he did care. Nevertheless, the weariness of waiting is a real thing that has to be addressed and dealt with in a rightful and logical spiritual way. So I'm going to look at a couple of people in the Bible to see how they managed. We read in 1 Samuel 13 that Saul waited 7 days for Samuel, and Samuel instructed him earlier, but Samuel didn't come in the time appointed. And Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. He demanded, "Bring me a burnt offering and a peace offering." And Saul sacrificed a burnt offering himself. And just as he was finishing that offering, Samuel arrived. He says, "What have you done? What have you done, Saul?" "Oh, how foolish," Samuel exclaimed. "You have not kept the commandment of the Lord that God gave you. Because if you had done it, the Lord would have established your kingdom in Israel forever." Waiting is part of God's plan. And for man and all creation, the natural world waits for the refreshing rain each season. In the cold latitudes, we wait for the dawn of spring and the long, brighter days. God had to wait for the fullness of time before sending his beloved Son into the world. Waiting has the effect of producing the fruit of calmness and submission to God's time. Impatience is a natural condition, but it sometimes, in some respects, it becomes a sin to us, a means of our downfall. And we read a bit further on about Saul, what exactly happened there. We read often in the Bible about people's impatience and mistakes and regrets made by not waiting for God's time. And we all know about Abraham and Sarai, how that she became impatient after many years of waiting for a promised son, and who would blame her? Or Abraham, and encouraged Abraham to sleep with her slave girl Hagar, and we're feeling the result of that today with many killings around the world. So I'm going to look at the example here now of kings, of Elisha, 2 Kings 6:33. While Elisha was still speaking with them, the messenger came down and said, "This calamity is from the Lord. Why should I wait any longer?" And Elisha said, "Hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Lord says. About this time tomorrow, at the gate of Samaria, a measure of fine flour will be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley will be sold for a shekel." There had been an awful famine in Samaria, of which had driven many people to even eat in their own children, their own offspring, babies. It had been a testing and dramatic time. The king of Samaria had had enough, and because of his frustration and desperation, he lashed out against Elijah, who was a prophet of God at the time. "Why should I wait any longer?" says the king. "Look at what's happening. I've waited, and we're just in desperate state." Yet the Lord speaks for Elijah and says, "Tomorrow the food will be freely available." And that's a miracle. The Lord was about to change the situation right around in a few hours. That situation turned right around just in a few hours. It seemed impossible, far beyond hope, yet God is able to change things so instantly, whatever you're in. However desperate your situation is, you can wake up tomorrow and completely be different. And the lesson we can learn is that God is able to change that situation in a very moment of a time. And the thing we've been praying and longing for such a long time, it seems so distant and away, far away, yet within moments it could suddenly happen. Joseph, for example, in the Bible, was taken from a prison as a slave without hope, family or wife, of his dreams coming true, yet within hours he was made the second most powerful man in Egypt. So the question is, do you believe God can do that for you? Do you believe he can change your situation around in a moment? And the second example, as we read earlier, is Saul, and how he didn't wait for Samuel. And we have a harsh lesson to learn here from the curse of impatience and not waiting for God's time or seeking his will about something. Impatience can rob us from a mighty blessing, as King Saul was so sad to find out. He had asked to wait for 7 days by Samuel, but under pressure and disobedience he failed to wait for him. Whilst it is true Samuel was a little longer than the allocated time, the key principle is that Saul should not have moved without God's permission through Samuel. And we read just after that Saul had finished that offering that Samuel turned up. If only he had waited and trusted in the Lord, even though the pressure was on and the troops were falling away, he would have been established as king, well and truly. And how often we can be tempted to give up and take second best. We just cannot wait any longer. And these times usually occur when we're feeling very low, troubled and tired, while we are at our weak state of mind or body, when the enemy can so tempt us. And I remember being so tempted to give up after waiting 2 decades and to try and do things my way. I felt pressure to move on as I was getting no younger. But I'm so grateful that God gave me the ability to keep on going. He allowed me not to fail. I'm so grateful that he kept me strong into the end. So may the Lord encourage you to wait for his time and his time only.